Hey everyone, Alex here with Rowan Health and Wellness. Today I want to talk to those who have a bit of a sweet tooth, those who love sugar, and even those who really are trying to make an effort to decrease sugar, but it might be actually popping into your diet more than you think. Refined sugar. So there's all kinds of different sugars out there on the market, but what I want to really focus in today is on the refined sugar. So the stuff that you find in processed foods, that white sugar that we tend to throw in our coffees and the little packets that are kind of sitting there waiting for us at the restaurant. So refined sugar itself has no nutritional value at all. Tastes great, does nothing for you in any good sense. Has no minerals or vitamins, nothing in it that's going to help you at all. If you actually take a look at most of your labels, so when you're in the kitchen next or when you're grocery shopping, take a look at the labels. Sauce is not just in your cookies and your cakes and your cupcakes, which are all obvious and huge loads of sugar in them, but things like pasta sauce, salad dressings, crackers, breads, canned vegetables, soups, that you think you're making these healthy choices, and it turns out a lot of them actually have added sugar to them as well, so it's very important to know that. Sugar can actually be listed as something different. There's many terms. I think I found about 60 different terms that you can actually list sugar as on a label. So anything from dextrose, high fructose corn syrup, which is terrible, glucose, sucrose, sorbitol, evaporated cane juice. Sounds good, right? Juice. Maple sugar, brown rice syrup, barley malt, and brown sugar. And the list goes on. All of these are actually sugar, just with a different name. So there's also natural sugars. Now, natural sugars don't have the same impact on your blood sugar and they aren't as pro-inflammatory. So if you're in the process of trying to reduce how many sugars you have in your diet, substituting things like cane sugar for things like honey or stevia or agave are all great options when you're trying to still have a little bit of that sweetness, but not using the refined sugar. Other things too, so a point to clarify, fructose, which is the sugar that generally naturally occurs in fruits, is not to be confused with high fructose corn syrup. There's a lot of processing that goes along with that, where fructose is in its natural form. So there is a difference between the two, so buyer beware, don't be confused with those two terms. So what does it really mean? You hear, oh, sugar's bad for you, try to take it out of your diet. So what kind of things might sugar be doing to you? So things like tooth decay. Do you have trouble when you go to the dentist? Are you constantly getting cavities and you don't know why? You brush your teeth, you floss, you do all the rest of it. But if you only do that once or twice a day and then the rest of the time you are putting sugar that just totally destroys your enamel on constantly, you're going to have trouble with your teeth. Obesity, a lot of people know that connection. So the more sugar you eat, because your body is not using the energy properly, it stores it improperly, and you end up with fat. Nutritional deficits. So not only is it damaging in the fact of extra fat, but your body isn't able to either absorb or use those nutrients well, so then you end up with troubles resulting from deficits in that sense. It increases your bad cholesterol and decreases your good cholesterol. So pretty much the opposite effect that you would like to see going on. Diabetes. There's your big one. Sugar disease. Diabetes. So not only is it the fact that you have the sugar in your body and your body is pretty much overloaded and can't use it properly, it's the fact that it's also inflaming your pancreas, which then can't work as efficiently as a result of having all of this sugar and inflammation in the body. You have trouble focusing and low energy. I don't know if you've realized this or recognized this in your day-to-day, but after that afternoon slump that you sometimes tend to have, you go for something sugary, that sugar crash that everybody talks about. You have a nice spike, you're really wired, and then all of a sudden, you end up crashing. We talk a little bit about that later, but if this is something your body is constantly cycling through because you're taking in sugar all the time, you're going to have that trouble focusing and low energy. This might be one of those few steps that if you just started to implement today, you could start to see results in as little as a week. with decreasing your sugar and your ability to focus and have more energy. And then there's sugar, artificial colors. When you put those two together in children, it actually has been linked to behavioral disorders. So things like ADD, ADHD, the way that it affects the brain chemistry is very significant. And when you put it in with other chemicals like food coloring, especially red, I believe, it really can start to cause trouble. Anything that has red coloring in it and sugar is very detrimental, especially in those developmental childhood years. For a bit of a visual, so if you start your day, you wake up late, you're running out the door, you grab a muffin. So there's your simple carbs. So you have two different types of carbs that you probably hear about. You have simple carbs, which are things like processed foods, muffins, bagels, breads, that kind of thing. And then you have complex carbs. Complex carbs are your things like your vegetables, your fruits. That's where you want to get your carbs because your body does need carbohydrates to function. It does break down into energy, but you want the right type of energy. And that's what comes in your natural vegetables. And that's where you get your fiber from too. So you start your day with a simple carb. You grab a bagel, you grab a muffin, and your sugars spike. They go sky high. Your body responds in a bit of a panic and releases all this insulin. Problem being is that because it's such a large spike, your body responds by dumping too much insulin into your bloodstream. And then what happens is you have that crash. Now it's gone low again. Now you're starting to get the jitteries, you're getting tired, you're getting those headaches. And so what do? Your body responds by, I need to have more sugar. Because now your body's into that starvation mode because you've taken care of all of the extra sugar because there was so much all at once. So then you end up going through this cycle all day and feeling like garbage. And a lot of the time it could easily be offsetted. And what can it be offsetted by? Eating good proteins and fats. To be honest, your body needs fats and protein for energy. So when you eat things like avocados, coconut oil, almonds, walnuts, pumpkin seeds, all of that good stuff, it helps your body regulate and use energy the way it's supposed to, so you don't get those highs and lows. You get just a little bit more of an even keel with the odd, up and down. Proteins. Your body uses proteins very efficiently, so you need to give it protein. It's the building block to a lot of the processes in our body. And if all we're giving it is sugar in our simple carbohydrates, your body's really losing out on the ability to function properly and help you counteract things like diabetes and heart disease and just on a day-to-day being able to focus and think. Very, very important. So you always want to eat a good fat with every meal, with protein, and your complex carbohydrates, which would be your vegetables and fruits. Artificial sweeteners. Okay, so everyone's like, oh yeah, that's cool. I'm going to reduce my sugar, but you end up substituting it for something like aspartame. Those are almost wolves in sheep's clothing. We're like, okay, we're not having sugar, which we know is bad for us now, so we're going to have this instead. But this instead actually can be just as harmful. The way that the sweeteners actually function in your body, in some instances, it'll actually disrupt your body's gauge of how many calories you're taking in, and it'll drive you to actually eat more. So maybe you're avoiding the sweetness, but you're going to eat more food and cause you to overeat, which then contributes to that diabetes and weight onset. It actually, your taste buds, the way it responds to it will be to actually start craving real sugar even more. So you're going to want to be eating even more sweetness. So you're either going to take in more artificial sweeteners, or you're going to be end up whatever you can grab from the convenience store as you're running around anyways. So it's kind of a catch-22. The other thing too is some people will just have allergies related to what is in the sweeteners themselves. So if we look at two of the main ones on the market, so aspartame. They've had over 92 symptoms reported to the FDA related to aspartame, including mimicking signs of things like Alzheimer's, epilepsy, severe depression, mental illness, Epstein-Barr, which is a nasty virus, chronic fatigue syndrome, multiple sclerosis, blindness, and others. Now in animal studies, and this is where a lot of the argument comes from, animal studies versus human studies, but in animal studies, it's been shown to cause cancer in the amount that it's supposed to be safe for humans. So when we make our decisions about what we're going to put in our body, even though it's not an obvious warning, because if it was an obvious warning, they would have to take it down. But we can start taking these things into account, especially when we're starting to make changes in our lives and we're not seeing the outcomes that we want. Sometimes it goes back to things like this. The other thing is Splenda, which is actually chlorinated sugar. So the same stuff you use to shock your pool with is the same stuff that's treating the sugar that you're about to eat. So in animal studies, again, animal studies, not human studies, but for me, I'm still going to be concerned about it. It's causing shrinkage of the thalamus gland, enlarging the liver and kidneys, causing diarrhea and even miscarriage in those animal studies. So there actually haven't been any human studies done on Splenda for more than 3 months to see what kind of effects it has. And of those, there weren't any children involved in these studies, and there weren't any pregnant women to see what the impact is. And the other thing is, if you have a chlorine allergy, you're actually going to possibly have a severe allergic reaction to this as well. So it's very important to know if you have this kind of allergies that this is what you're actually consuming. Consumer be wise. Make educated choices. So things that you can start doing today. Take a look at your labels. What's in the food that you're eating, even in the places that you don't think you would see sugar. Again, like your pasta sauces and your salad dressings. You're making these healthy choices, eating organic salad, and then you end up increasing your sugar intake because you drizzle it with these salad dressings that you also think are doing good for you. Replacing refined sugars with natural sugars. Again, it's very difficult to come off sugar. So substituting it with something so you still get a little bit of the sweetness, but not all the harsh up and downs that your body goes through. Helping eating good fats and proteins, again, with every meal. So it doesn't have to be a lot. A few almonds, half an avocado, a handful of walnuts, something with some good fats in it. Or use, a flaxseed oil on your salad with some herbs and a little bit of peppers and seasonings and stuff like that, as opposed to the salad dressing. So you're getting your good fats, and then sprinkle some meat on top, something whatever your desires, salmon, chicken, hard-boiled eggs, steak, and into the mix, and then you've got that meal that's going to not result in you crashing hours later. And then trying to stay away from artificial sweeteners. I know that's kind of the go-to. Well, I'm cutting back on sugars. I'll have a diet drink of some kind. You're actually, in the end, probably causing more harm to your body. Again, it's just kind of trading one for the other. So you definitely want to be educated. Try to stay away from those. Substitute with good sugars and eating your fats and your proteins with your meals. All right, guys. So that's all for today. Me signing off, and I hope you health and happiness. Thanks, guys.